Wow, what an amazing piece of music. Lux Aeterna, written by Edward Elgar, sung by VOCES8, spelt VOCES, and then the number 8. Just a brilliant way to settle quietly into an attitude maybe of worship, of awe, of amazement at just how brilliant God is and how brilliant God always is, if only we stop to think about it. This is another section of the series that I'm trying to put together on how we show that we love God. I thought you might enjoy having a little look at the Rublev's icon. I'm sorry if it was a little wobbly, but I was just holding it in place. In the run-up to Trinity Sunday, I always think that that is the most amazing piece of art. Of course, this is the whole picture, and it shows, well, it could be said to show the Trinity. It could be said to show 3 angels. It could be a celebration of community or a celebration of communion. There we go. Hopefully helpful in the run-up to Trinity Sunday. But today I'm really going to think about how we show God that we worship him, how we show God that we love him in our worship. And so I did some research and I came up with some stuff. And the things I found out were that worship should always include some or all of adoration, confession of sin, proclamation out towards the world, and thanksgiving towards God, affirmation of faith and a recommitment to our faith, intercession where we ask for God's triumph over adverse circumstances, whatever they may be, and expectation, the assertion that part of our faith is the expectation of salvation which comes only from the Lord. So perm any or all of those, and you have an act of worship. And when we worship, we show God how much we love God. Him, her, them. Worship can be formal. It can be set in a liturgical pattern, like we do in church when church is happening. It can be set in a liturgical pattern as we do on Zoom at the moment during lockdown whilst the churches are shut and remain shut. Or it can be informal. It's interesting though, quite a lot of churches that have this loose, informal pattern of worship. It isn't really loose or informal. It's pretty much set in stone by whoever is leading the worship, because they will have their preferred style, their preferred set number of songs, where the prayers go, where the reading goes, all that sort of thing. So however loose we may think it, the reality is that it is usually quite fixed. And these are all things we do formally, we might say liturgically and ecclesiastically. They're a way that we are enabled to worship God. Historically, it's been the preserve of priests and worship leaders, and occasionally the congregation are invited to join in a response or to sing. More and more these days, it's a communal effort, an effort where from the community, from the congregation, there are readers, there are intercessors, there are worship leaders, there are preachers and teachers interpreters of tongues, interpreters of visions, people who lead intercessory prayer, people who offer prayer ministry. This is not the preserve of someone in a funny shirt with a weird collar. It is all our jobs to worship the Lord. And when we do that, we show God that we love him, her, them. The next thing during lockdown is that we worship from home. Our very lives can be an act of worship. It's a very difficult thing to do. But our very lives can be an act of worship, an act of adoration, an act of recognition of brokenness, a proclamation of God's love to the world, an everyday thanksgiving to God for what we have, for the blessings that we have. And in the way we live our lives, so we affirm our faith and recommit every day to living our lives in that particular way, which glorifies God. Part of our lives may involve a specific prayer ministry for individuals who ask us for prayer. And again, in that we intercede daily for those we know and sometimes for those we don't know. I often wonder about expectation. I've never really been one for storing up treasures in heaven. I've never been one for assuming that every good deed is marked down in God's holy book. And so my expectation is more of myself than of God. Now, this is very personal. This is not necessarily an orthodoxy. But the expectation that I have of myself is that I will try my best to live a life that is worthy of God's love and shows my adoration and my love for God. I expect nothing in return. There is no expectation of salvation. There is hope. Definitely there is hope of salvation, but it's salvation of a God who loves all of us and saves all of us. Not of a God who saves me because I did this or did that, or didn't do this or didn't do that. So when we believe in a God of love, our worship somehow frees us to be who we feel God calls us to be. So there is another way in which we can show that we truly love God and keep Jesus's two, or at least part of one, of Jesus's great commandments. I hope this has helped. Amen.